delighted to have you with us again, Charlie,
It's
for
my pleasure.
what I would describe as a momentous occasion. Not only do we have a bottle of Macallan Folio 1, but we're going to do the unthinkable. We're actually going to open it and taste it of a Macallan. It's absolutely crazy. But this is a hugely exciting thing for me.
Well, we better tell the troops the background to this series.
Sure, of course. So this is Macallan Folio 1, which is obviously the first batch of their Archival Folio series, which was first launched in 2015.
Oh, really? As long ago as that?
Yeah, kind of going back a few years now. This was launched to celebrate Macallan's print, press, advertising campaigns of the 70s, 80s and 90s. The majority of these were done by David Holmes and Nick Salomon of the Holmes Knight Ritchie kind of creative agency. And obviously Macallan today is a huge brand, not just a whiskey brand, but a global iconic brand.
Yeah.
So I think this series is a celebration of their humble beginnings. Indeed, this first release was kind of celebrating their first ever print ad, which was on the back page of the Times newspaper. It was 27th of March 1980. Kind of on the back, small little black and white ad next to the crossword, they said.
That's right. Very
understated. Obviously comparing that to the huge campaigns they do now.
Holmes Knight were appointed in '66, or rather, as I remember, the board of Macallan decided that they would start setting aside stock in 1966 for bottling as single malt. Prior to that, Macallan had a very high reputation. It was ranked top class, top dressing, they called it, by blenders. But the entire make went for blending, except for a very small amount. You're probably talking 15, 20 butts, which would be bottled for the directors, you know. And so it had a local. It was very, very well regarded locally on Speyside, but it was simply not generally available. They decided they were going to set aside in '66. They got in touch with Holmes Knight in '67, I think, and they produced a sort of manual guide thing, which was very quirky. Sarah Midder, the legendary illustrator, did the illustrations for many of them, actually.
The classic watercolour image of Israel.
But it was very quirky. It was very unlike any sort of advertising that had ever been done before for whiskey, certainly. They appointed Hugh Midcalf as their marketing director in '78.
Okay.
Now, in 1978, and it was Hugh that told me this, the Macallan's entire promotional budget was £50.
50 whole pounds. That's remarkable, isn't it?
And it was just used locally in Craigellachie, whatever, they built a scout hut or something like that. They allocated £25,000 to the launch campaign, which was in '79. But it really only went to market, as I recall, it went to market in '81. Okay. So it's not that long ago.
No, not when you think about it. It's really not that long.
It's grown from that small beginning to this global brand.
Yeah, and I suppose at that time, marketing a single malt Scotch was maybe not unthinkable. Obviously, Glenfiddich had started maybe kind of a decade or so before, but very few. And obviously, in the 80s, there was a huge downturn in Scotch whisky, so it probably was a bit of a gamble.
But then there was the increasing number of single malts being released in the 80s.
Yeah.
But anyway, come on! I don't pour it myself.
As I say, this is a super sought after bottle. Limited to, we believe, only 2,000 bottles.
Oh, is that right?
In the whole wide world, as I say.
No age statement, I notice.
Yes, the exact details of the liquid are kind of limited. Obviously, it's single malt Scotch. It's going to be at least 3 years old. It's Macallan, so it's going to be sherry seasoned casks.
Yeah,
it's 43%. Other than that, they're not really telling us very much. But it's become an iconic bottle. As I say, first released 2015, I think for about £100 was the retail price.
Good Lord, really?
Fast forward less than a decade, it's now selling for 5 figures. I get peaked recently at about 14,000.
No,
at auction.
really?
So
for this number,
for number one. Release. So not a bad return on a £100 investment.
Yeah.
A very, very exciting bottle. With it being number one, I think there will always be that appeal. In terms of a whiskey's collectability, I do find batch one of anything always has a bit of extra hype around it. I think people buy into that hoping that the whole series becomes hugely sought after. And I do feel that's the case with Folio 1. So, as I say, not one that's opened very often. If you look online for tasting notes or just any sort of description of a liquid, not very much at all.
We'll do our best, shall we?
We'll do our best. So we'll open this up and see what we think. It's a bit nervous.
Well, I'm leaving it up to you.
This is quite nerve-wracking.
Great. Gorgeous, lovely,
sort of reassuring
deep
colour. Obviously, we've done the unthinkable and opened a bottle of Folio 1 and out of curiosity
That's
to see.
what it's there for.
That's what it's there for, quite right. But I think from the colour, it's reassuring. It's what you'd want to see from a Macallan. It's not, it's not a dark mahogany. On the nose, do you think
it's a very pleasant nose. It's quite mild. There's no prickle there, but it's 43%.
Yes.
And and my top notes are custard cream biscuits.
Okay.
So it's very, very light vanilla, but custard cream.
Yeah. Would you think, obviously Macallan's famous for using sherry casks? Would you suggest
but that's immediately behind.
Maybe some American oak characteristics as opposed to European?
That top note you tend to associate with American oak, but I think it's aberrant. Because underneath is this lovely dried fruit.
Yeah, it is quite
and chocolate.
Gentle.
And glassy cherries. Oh yeah.
Yeah, do you feel like
it's a very lovely, mellow, rich?
Do you think it's quite youthful on the nose, or do you think it suggests extended period?
It's not an old thing. It's still quite lively.
Yeah, I think when you try, aged Macallan, which are 20, 30 years old, it's a danger that becomes overwhelmed by the oak, by the wood. This still has a very prominent spirit shining through, which is lovely.
And you see, the one of the reasons for not putting an age statement in that it'll have some younger whiskey as well as some very old whiskey. My guess would be to achieve this balance.
Yeah, which isn't a bad thing. Obviously, younger whiskies give liveliness, can give more kind of subtle nuances to it. And I think, obviously, with this being such an expensive whiskey, some people might think, well, I'd expect it to be at least 30 years old. But if your priority is making a whiskey which tastes good, sometimes you need
it's
no
components. Absolute guarantee of quality, age.
No,
as we both know.
Yeah.
Right, in the mouth.
Let's give this a try.
Pleasant texture. Mouth filling. Lightly sweet, and then tannic dry. And again, that's more or less as you'd expect from Macallan with its because obviously the colour comes from tannins in the European oak is more tannic, so you get these. But it's not. You can't have it when it's too dry. Wersh and but no, that's very pleasant indeed. And again, I'm also getting that trace of chocolate, dark chocolate.
Yes, yeah.
It's a classic example.
Yeah, it's not too much. It feels quite balanced. I think you try some, whiskies which have been in sherry casks, and they're too much, and they become quite dense and quite heavy, and it's all chocolate fudge cake and these sorts of aromas. This still has that liveliness, as you say, and hints of those sort of
it's a lovely whiskey. And one of my keynotes for European oak maturation is malt loaf.
Yes. Yeah,
Malt
yeah,
loaf with
yeah.
sultanas, but this is so modified that it's not. I'm not getting that because that's a bit obvious. This is much more subtle. Yeah, lovely.
Yeah, it is a lovely drop. I think for those who want, I think it's easy to associate Macallan with super heavy characteristics, but if you can put that to one side and just take this for what it is, for me it's a lovely drop.
Same here.
I suppose the big question then is, would you pay £15,000 for a bottle of this to open and enjoy?
To be honest, Laurie, the value of anything is what people are prepared to pay for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wouldn't spend that money on a bottle of whiskey, but nevertheless, it's a great privilege to be able to taste it.
It's a great opportunity to taste it, and I think it's. I think Macallan, when they produced this, they probably knew not many were going to be opened and enjoyed.
Yeah,
so it's probably easy for them to think, "Oh, we'll just put the younger."
Well, what
stuff
we should
in
do, is to follow the old Scottish tradition of throwing the cork in
Why
the
not?
fire.
Yeah, why not? It's not every day that Charlie McLean comes to town. So yeah, I'll take that from you. Thank you very much. But no, as you say, a real great privilege to open it and try it, and yeah, a great start to the Folio series. I would say it's a lovely dram. So yeah, pleasure to
Excellent
share with each other.
Yeah, great.